This next little group of items is packed with some goodies here. These are wedges for removing Jacob's chucks from arbors. Yeah, so these create a wedging action and will pop off on a good day. It will pop the chuck off the arbor. They also can be handy for when you're trying to remove a bearing that's pressed onto a shaft and the shaft is up against a larger diameter, so you can't get a normal puller on it. But anyways, I have a set of these. I'll just make sure I have all of these sizes. And then this little pile of stuff right here. These are just gauge blocks, miscellaneous gauge blocks he had there. This is a 1-inch Weber block. It's also marked LSS, so this would have been in a Starrett set. And some gauge pins. This one's actually in a little holder. But anyways, I always keep those. I put those together and I keep them in a container, and that way if I end up going through some gauge pin sets that I'm missing any sizes, I might luck out and have a size that I'm missing. This is it's called a Bell Center Finder, I think, if I recall correctly. The way this works, loosen this set screw and allow this to move. Okay, so that's got a sharp point on it. This has got a cone shape, and the way you would use this is if you don't need a super accurate location on a piece of round stock, you would you take the round stock and you would hold this on it, and it would automatically, because of the shape, would automatically cause it to be close to the center. And as long as you keep this fairly upright, you can then strike this and get a pretty good approximation to center that you can then center drill whatever you need to do. This might be a homemade jobber. I don't see any markings on it. Oh no, this one is marked. Let's see. See if I can clean this up, see who makes it. Yep, no, this is a homemade job. He just did a really good, he took the time to put his entire last name on there with a punch set, so to mark his work. Kind of neat. And this is just a pair of precision ground shop-made parallels. Always handy. This is the coolest looking T-slot cleaner I've seen in a while. This one is an MSC Industrial Supply Company marked one. It's aluminum, but it's just kind of neat that they took the time to, looks like it's anodized with this blue color. And it's actually made by Mengrino Industries at 490 Humboldt Street in Brooklyn, New York. Patent pending, USA. Made in the USA, and there's a phone number on here. So, I've seen one of these before. I've got plenty of these though, so I'll be able to pass that on. Here's a little Machinist square. I couldn't find any markings on it, so it's just a no-namer. This is a Craftsman 609 center gauge, aka fishtail. And this is a Starrett. It's not the chrome one though. It's not the satin chrome finish. It's an earlier one. 392, I believe. That's a part from like a last word indicator set. It's a Starrett one. Actually, is that missing from this set right here maybe? Oddly enough, there's two of these in here, and this shouldn't be. And this should be in here. So there we go. I think I took a quick look at these, and these are all, maybe with the exception of that one there, I think these are all Starrett punches. That one has been ground to a chisel point. Alright, so that different colored one right there, that's a General. And the rest of these are all Starrett, and with the exception of that one that's been reground, these are all perfect. Then he had a couple of, he had no height gauges there, but he just had this this scriber. Looks like a shop made one. And then a scriber clamp, or a height gauge clamp. And there's a carbide tipped scriber for a height gauge. That's actually a pretty nice one there. This is a this is from a square head, or one of these. This is what goes inside here. So oddly enough, he had, like I said, he had that Lufkin blade sitting there with these two Miller's Falls pieces, and this, and a scriber, which would stick inside the square head if we had it, and no square head. Here's two of those little Mitutoyo adjusting tools that I was talking about. So those will go with those Mitutoyo. Here's another little scriber for height gauge. And then there were these things here. First I thought they were letter punches, big ones or whatever. And I'm looking at them and they're blank, and I didn't know what they were. And he says, "You know what those are?" And I said, "No." And he says, "Oh." He says, "Well," he said, "what these are for," he said, you tap these in to your slots on your milling machine, and basically once you tap these in like that, now you just run whatever you want to put right up against it, and it's basically in alignment with the T-slots on the table, which the T-slots in the table should be perpendicular to your column, or in other words, the alignment. Your x-axis is perpendicular to your y-axis on your milling machine. So not for super accurate, but I guess he swears by him. And he said on a Bridgeport, these are a tight fit when you tap them in, so that's why they're tapered. So they got this taper on them so that you can just get them started, and then they supposedly they fit in tight enough that, you know, they stay put. So I said, well, I'm going to have to try that on my Wells Index and see how close the T-slots are on my Wells to the T-slot dimensions on a Bridgeport. I really like this this clamp. It's just got an old Federal indicator on here. Oh, it's a 0.5 thousandths indicator, just marked made in the United States of America. They spelled it out in full words there. But it's got the look of a Federal indicator to it. It's really sticky, so it could use a little love, but that's not what I really wanted. What I really wanted was this clamp. So this clamp, I can't find any markings on it, but it's definitely brown and sharp, or Starrett, I think. But it's really nicely made. Unfortunately, it's got a bend in it right here, a pretty bad one. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if somebody did that intentionally, that they had some reason why they wanted this moved out of the way a little bit, and they bent it back and they just figured they're going to use it like that. But this is designed, you can see the V right here. This will clamp right onto your lathe, onto the V-way, and give you a nice indicator stand, indicator mounting point. You know, it's missing some paint here, but it's got this nice big knurled wheel here, easy adjustment. I've got one like this now that's homemade. This one here I think I'm going to keep for myself. I don't know. We'll see. I get attached to too much stuff, so, you know, can't take it all with you. We'll see. And then, yeah, getting back to this indicator, you know, it might not take that much to clean that up. It's really not in that bad a shape other than the paint missing and it's sticking. But a lot of these drop indicators are 1 thou, and this is a 0.5 thou. I'm looking at that. That's rotating. Boy, that seems like it's way out of whack. It's just kind of an optical illusion there. It almost looked to me like that center pin that the hand was on was bent the way it was moving, but that's just because of the little silver-colored tail, almost like a bird's tail on the other end of the needle there. And a little spritz valet is totally awesome, and that's already looking up. Next up, we have another one of these old style. I think Starrett marketed these for a while under the brand name or like trade name Verdict. So this is a mechanical 100%. Well, they're all mechanical indicators. I don't know what to call it, but let's call it a Starrett number 564 because that's what it is. And what this is like probably the simplest form of indicator that you could possibly get. And by design, because of the fact that it's so simplistic, these actually are very, very reliable. And if you're just looking to gauge something like total run out, there's nothing wrong with using something like this. Well, unless your boss catches you. This one's actually pretty clean. It's also got a chrome plated body, which I haven't seen on any of the other ones that I've gotten. So it's got a patent number on it, or is it a patent date? This also has the ability to swivel around from vertical to horizontal. I haven't seen one that does this, I don't think. This is interesting. The patent number, not a patent date. But anyways, this is kind of a funky deal here with the... Not quite sure what the deal is with the way this mouth is made. Yeah, I don't really care. Here's a shoe to go on a, or foot to go on a drop indicator. This is marked number 644, so I can almost guarantee that this is probably for a Starrett. Yeah, so there they are right there. So there's a 643, 640, and the 644 series. And then in the 644 series, there was the metric, and there was the standard. And standard was supposed to have a 0 to 3 inch range. So it was also offered with jewel bearings or plain bearings indicators. So I'd have to find a 644 indicator to go in that if I wanted to make it correct. Although I'm wondering, as long as it fits in there, I imagine I could use another indicator in there. Heck, I could slap this sucker in there probably. Well, no, this doesn't have enough travel, but I probably have a Starrett indicator that could use that. I'll probably have to hold on to that for now. Then this cream puff right here is a Interrapid. This is a 312B-1 half thousandths Interrapid indicator, which would be a great indicator, except that this one is big time broken. Something really bad happened to this one. It doesn't want to do anything. But it's an Interrapid, so it might be worth doing something with. I've successfully taken a few of these apart myself, believe it or not, without destroying them. So, oh, look at that. Did you see that? That just moved. So, might have to have some fun with this in a separate episode. I only got about 8 items left. Alright, next up we got a depth micrometer. This is an MG Tools, which I've seen some MG Tool stuff that was made in Japan. This one is marked New York, USA. It's actually a very narrow, wide base on there, so that might be handy to somebody. And then I took all of the depth rods that he had laying around there with it, but I don't think I could see that these look like different style heads than this one, so I actually don't know what we've got here. So what's in there right now, okay, is that style. So it looks like what we've got is we've got an MG tool that's going to be 0 to 3 inch set right there. And then this looks like it might be a Starrett rod. So I'll have to put that with my extra rods. That's nice. That'll be a nice cheap depth micrometer for somebody. This is a flange or disc micrometer. This particular one is a Mitutoyo. It, oddly enough, I don't see a lock on it, but it's very stiff. Yeah, so it's way too stiff. So I don't know what the deal is there. Now, oddly enough, there's a screw right there where the lock mechanism would normally reside on this thing. I'm wondering if I back that screw off, whether or not it makes a difference. All right, so what that little tiny screw did was that was a cap or a cover that opened up a port that allowed me to unscrew another screw that has a tiny pin on the end that rides in that groove right there. Okay, so with that little pin out, I can rotate this and actually unscrew this. It'll let you unscrew it far enough to actually remove it? No, it wouldn't. This is getting a lot freer to deal with, though. I could feel that. You know, a normal micrometer, I would unscrew this barrel part and be able to take the whole stem out this way. But because this has got the flange on here, I thought maybe I could unscrew this flange from the stem here. But when I went to turn it, all that happened was this whole thing started to unscrew. And if I put the little pin back in to hold it so that I can try and unscrew this, I bet you I just end up shearing the little tiny pin. So I don't want to do that either. This is already getting a lot freer just by unscrewing this like this. I'm wondering if I run this all the way in and expose as much of that as possible. If I clean it, maybe that's all we need to do. Well, guys, that couldn't have been easier. Just clean this with a little bit of solvent, and now that's nice and free. The only thing is it's not quite coming back to zero. I should clean these discs, though. All you need is one little bit of grit on these things, and let's try that again. Well, it looks like it's just about a quarter thou off. Well, I'm going to leave that. If I hard seat it, it goes right to the zero. It's just the ratchet thimble is not quite. Oh, there it is. Just going to give it a little bit more of a spin. Good enough. Give somebody a deal on that one. Actually, that just went right back in my toolbox because, well, not back in my toolbox. That went right in my toolbox because it turns out I think I sold my disc micrometer that I had. I think when somebody was looking for one, and I thought, well, I don't use it that often, so I squared them away with one, and so now I'll just keep that set for now. All right, next up, I've got these fly cutters, boring bars. Really, this is a homemade fly cutter. I can tell by the way that it's set up for using. You can put another grind your own tool steel in here, and you get yourself a fly cutter. This, same deal. This one is using a different shaped cutter, though. This is more conventional. And then there's this. This is interesting. This does not appear to be shop made at all. Matter of fact, we've got a name on this one. B&S Manufacturing Company, Providence, Rhode Island. So this is a Brown & Sharp 60-200. Anybody ever seen one of these? There are actually little tiny adjustments on this thing. See, this is almost like an adjustment dial here. But all that does, all right, well, there's a reference line right there. All that's going to do is move this screw out. So I guess you would back this out, and then you'd have another screw on the other side here that you'd have to be tightening. Well, actually, you got a set screw here, but it seems like that would be in the wrong position. I don't know. I've never seen one. Wonder if I could find a picture of one on the internet. All right, guys, here's the last of it. Last from this haul. I've got way too many of these style of inside and outside calipers and whatnot. So I left most of them there, but I did grab this pair because it caught my eye because of the bent leg style, and it's got the really sharp point here. And these are actually Craftsman, so I thought they were kind of neat. Yeah, so they just marked Craftsman USA. And if I recall correctly, I think we can loosen this. Yeah, and this allows this to be actually rotated around 180 degrees. Yeah, kind of a neat little different take on these kind of calipers. You know, as I had mentioned in the beginning of this series on this particular haul, I was late to the party, so somebody had gotten there before me and had bought up the majority of the Albrecht chucks that he had there. I was able to score this one. I'm thinking the reason why they passed on this one is because it's got this really short little stub arbor on it, and the way that somebody put this on here, it's probably going to be a bit of a bear to take this off. There is a groove, so I might be able to just grip that enough, get some wedges in there and pop this off. I don't know, but if I can get this off and put this on a better arbor, this is actually a pretty decent chuck. It's a 0 to 5/16 Albrecht, and the jaws look pretty good. Definitely seen some use, but still plenty of life left on that one. This right here it says transfer center punch. I believe that is what is in here. Yeah, so this is kind of a neat little tool I'm going to keep for myself. So transfer center punch. So I showed you guys a little while back that bell center punch. This is kind of like the opposite of that. So what you do is you would hold this over, say I wanted to make a hole in something that I wanted to bolt this to. Well, I could hold this onto the other part and then put this over like that, hit it, and when I pull this away, I'll have a center punch mark right in the center of this hole lined up. I've never seen one like this. It's kind of neat. And again, probably not that expensive, so I'm just going to keep it for myself. And the last item is a Starrett multi-anvil micrometer. This is the Starrett 220. Typically, these would come in a case with interchangeable anvils. Most of the time when you see these being used, or when I find these in toolboxes, they just have a simple dowel pin in here. So this was heavily engraved, and then looks like the engraving was ground off, and then somebody engraved it again. So this has passed through a couple of different hands. The thing I thought was interesting was I found this, and what's in this envelope is another jaw for this micrometer. So I'm not sure. I don't think there's anything different about these two jaws. I think they're identical. So I don't know why. Yep. So that's an extra jaw he had for some reason. So I'll probably hold on to that. That's a nice thing to have if I come into possession of one of these that has a damaged jaw, or is missing the jaw, which kind of be weird, but I guess it could happen. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, and if so, please hit the like button, and if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. Take care.